Hey gang, welcome back to another video. Now if you're anything like me, you've been enjoying the Book of Boba Fett series and the return of the original trilogy favorites, the Tusken Raiders. So when Surebonder reached out and asked if they could send me their cosplay sticks to use in a project, I knew exactly what to make. So let's get to it. As with most helmet type builds these days, a good model is required for the base, and this build is no different. And once again I found some great files made by Brian J. Anderson, who's also known as Stormtrooper Guy on Thingiverse. And after a bit of scaling in my 3D slicer program, I got to the printing of the helmet portion of this build. While I wait for that to finish, I grabbed some duck canvas from my local fabric store and tore it into 2-inch widths and laid them out for weathering. Now this may be a bit unconventional, but I'm a fan of using instant espresso for weathering fabric. To help the espresso penetrate the canvas, I'll start by wetting down the strips with a bit of water before mixing up some of the espresso powder and applying it as randomly as possible. By changing the ratio of powder to water allows me to create a variety of stains and weathering. Plus, by using a spray bottle, I'm taking some of the human element out of it to get a much more random application. I'll repeat this process until I'm happy with how the canvas looks, and then I'll let it sit out in the sun to dry. The next step in the build will be to tackle all of the metal Gribblies. These were all printed in resin and stuck to some bits of MDF with double-sided carpet tape for painting, starting with a base of medium gray satin spray paint, and then followed by a top coat of All-Clad 2 chrome to help me get a bright metal finish. The satin spray paint helps to dull the chrome top coat so that it's not quite the mirror finish you'd get with a high gloss. And the color of the spray paint also helps to make it look more like a milled aluminum rather than a polished chrome. Once I had all of my metal parts painted, it was time to set them aside and get down to some leather work on the helmet portion of the build. Based on all the reference photos, it appears that the eyes and snout are covered in leather, or in this case, a leather-like vinyl. So I grabbed some painter's tape and a marker to create a makeshift pattern that I can transfer to my vinyl. Then I cut the vinyl slightly oversized and left a tab across the nose to help smooth out the transition between the surfaces, although I found in the end that this really wasn't all that necessary. But now we can get to the fun part: assembly. The bulk of the assembly will be done using the new cosplay stick hot glue from Surebonder. They were nice enough to send me a bunch to try, and I thought this project would be a perfect opportunity to put them through their paces. So with my cosplay sticks in hand, it was time to glue the leather to the mask. Once I had the first piece attached, I was able to determine where to cut the eye openings and then glued them to the interior of the mask. With the eyes cut out, it was time to move on to adding some of the other Gribblies, starting with the spikes. In hindsight, I would have done some of the other steps first, since adding all of these parts made it a bit more challenging to maneuver the helmet. So if you're planning on tackling this build for yourself, hold off until after you've done all the leather work to add on any of the metal parts. I'm using the cosplay sticks to hold everything in place, but will eventually give all of the Gribblies a stronger mechanical connection with screws. So I pre-drilled holes in the helmet before starting to help guide me during the installation. You'll see here that I'm piercing the leather to make it easier to tell where the center is for the tusk parts before attaching them with the hot glue gun. Now comes the most challenging part of this build, the leather work around the mouth. To really get this to look good, you want to try to create as much bunching as possible. However, the material you use can make this a more challenging proposition. In my case, I found that this synthetic leather was a bit bulkier than I would have liked. So be sure to test your material before you start to get a better understanding of where the problems may be. Now, I won't make you watch me struggle through this, so let's jump ahead to the end. Well, it's not quite what I was hoping for, but as Adam Savage likes to say, it's serviceable, so let's continue. Next up is the Snout Gribbly, which I glued directly onto the vinyl, and then it was time for the real leather strapping. This should hold everything in place and give it that iconic Tusken look. With the leather straps in place and firmly glued to one another, it was time to add on the eye stalks, and then I can get to the longest and most satisfying part of this build, applying the canvas strips. To get started, I took some canvas squares and cut slits in them to place over each of the spikes. This will help make them look like they're piercing through the canvas without having to cover the entire helmet. Then it was time to start laying down the strips. There was no real plan with these since I wasn't attempting a screen-accurate replica. It was just about making it aesthetically pleasing to look at. Now I won't make you watch all of it, just know that it was a lot of gluing and massaging the pieces in place, and repeating until the entire helmet was covered in bandages. There we go. Now it's looking like something. The last thing I want to do is to add a bit of additional weathering to the entire piece. To do this, I'll be using an umber wash and my airbrush. This will give me an opportunity to add a bit of character to the metal parts, to darken any overlapping areas of the leather strap and any spots that look like they could use a bit of color. Now this wash goes on pretty light, so it's a good way to create some variation without it getting away from me like a more pigmented paint could potentially do. Showing restraint is key in this part. A little goes a long way if you ask me. I'd say it's not too bad for a one-day build. All in all, I'm really happy with how this turned out, and the cosplay stick hot glue allowed me to knock this out in record time. So if you're in the market for some new hot glue, I highly suggest you check it out. Well, that's going to do it for this one. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, but most importantly, go make something. Now, where'd I put that gaffy stick?